is Jennifer Kelly, and today I will be giving a brief introduction of Medicare cost reports and some of the accounting that is involved in filling out these reports. For simplicity, we are going to speak about the cost reports from the perspective of a hospital. Of course, there are different types of facilities that do fill out cost reports. They may have different requirements. Nonetheless, each year a hospital who receives reimbursements from Medicare is required to submit a cost report, otherwise known as a Form 25210. This form includes detailed information at the cost center level. All of the data is grouped into different cost centers. And it includes facility characteristics, utilization, cost information, and charges. This data helps Medicare to determine whether a facility has overpaid or underpaid Medicare. It's also a really great centralized source of the cost and charge information across facilities in the country, which is otherwise sometimes difficult to come by. There are several different worksheet series within the cost report that are expected to be submitted, but today we're really going to focus on worksheets A, B, C, and touching on D to illustrate the importance of accounting in Medicare cost reports. This is the beginning of worksheet A. It's a great sample of what the series will look like and kind of functionally how everything works and what Medicare is expecting. On the left-hand side, you'll see the cost center descriptions. So listed here are the general service cost centers, the inpatient routine services center. If we kept flipping through the pages, we would see even more cost centers for ancillary services, outpatient services, and so on. You might just want to take a pause on your screen so that you can get some clarity on the screenshot. You can see the trial balance, which is highlighted with the blue above columns 1 through 3. This is data that is brought in under the financial accounting standards that companies typically abide by. Under reclassifications, what the hospital will do when they're filling out this form is reclassify costs to different cost centers to abide by Medicare expense reporting. You may have one cost that is living somewhere under the trial balance that cannot be living there when it's reported to Medicare. So for example, we may have some cost in housekeeping that really need to be moved to laundry and linen service. So that would be an example of reclassifying a cost. After the trial balance is reclassified, there's an opportunity to make some adjustments. Again, there's a difference between accounting under the accrual basis, abiding by the Financial Accounting Standards Board, and the expense reporting of Medicare. So the adjustments column is really to make adjustments for items that are not allowed under the Medicare expense reporting. You don't want to report items that are not allowed to be expensed in terms of the cost report. After making these changes to the trial balance, we have column 7, which is the net expenses for allocation. So this is going to move into worksheet B, which is going to be the basis for the cost allocation. So I want you to keep in mind column 7 right now because it's going to appear again. So this is the beginning of the Worksheet B series cost allocation reports. There's 3 types of cost allocations that are reported. The general service costs, which we're looking at right now. There's also the cost allocation of the capital related cost, as well as cost allocation on a statistical basis. With that said, we are going to focus on general service costs and the statistical basis for now, being that general service and capital related are very similar in terms of what's being done. It's just that one is focused on capital. So as you can see here, we're looking at Worksheet B, Part 1. I asked you to remember about column 7 from the previous Worksheet A. And you can see here, as outlined in red, that we're beginning with the net expenses for cost allocation. And you can see the stepping, how this form is set up for stepping. And what Worksheet B is doing is really allocating the indirect cost of the Medicare expenses. So you can really see here how that's coming into play. So this is a continuation of the same report we were just looking at, where we were looking at the net expenses for allocation and the stepping. This is a continuation with additional cost centers. So you see there is the other reimbursable cost centers, special purpose cost centers, where things like kidney acquisition, heart acquisition are allocated in terms of cost across the indirect accounts listed on the top. So, going across, we see other general service, non-physician, anesthesia, nursing school. These are all of the indirect accounts or cost centers, if you will, that we are stepping in terms of the cost allocation. What I wanted to point out is column 26, which I folded in red, and row 118. That is the total column and the subtotal row. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because this total, in terms of the cost allocation, is going to move to Worksheet C. And that is going to drive the cost to charge ratio analysis. I just wanted to quickly point out the additional type of cost allocation that is reported, and that's on the statistical basis. So the screenshot I have here, we're still doing the same stepping, but the cost centers, they're driven based on statistics such as pounds of laundry, hours of service, number of meals served. So it's very quantifiable on the activity that is occurring. You can see the stepping very nicely in this screenshot. And one thing to mention is this screenshot, you're going to step the general service cost based on the costs that have been incurred, but there's going to be more granularity as you fill out the form. So there may be some costs that are additionally added in the inpatient routine service cost center, and that's going to support the stepping as you add up the totals once you move through the cost report. This is the beginning of Worksheet C, where the cost to charge ratio is calculated. The cost to charge ratio is extremely important to a hospital because Medicare uses this number to determine reimbursement and outlier payments. The hospital wants to make sure this number is as accurate as possible because a change in payments could result in a change in profits. The cost to charge ratio can be calculated at the cost level or at the provider level, which is why we see the bucketing on the left-hand side. As you can see in column 1, total costs are being brought in from Worksheet B. This is to show you that this is really a truly continuous flow of information as the hospital progresses through the worksheet. So once the total costs are determined, total charges are being brought in for outpatient and inpatient services. And what this is going to tell us in the cost to charge ratio is some additional insights about what the hospital is experiencing in terms of cost and how that is in relation to how much they're actually charging. Ultimately, the cost to charge ratio is going to be used in Worksheet D to apportion cost and determine Medicare revenue. This is going to be a big step towards determining whether the hospital owes money to Medicare or should receive money back from Medicare, just as you and I would deal with our taxes at the end of the year. As you can tell, there's a continuous flow of information between the series and the cost report. Today we reviewed worksheet A, B, C, we touched on D, and we even talked about the importance of cost reports for hospitals. I want to thank you for your attention to my presentation. I hope you learned a little about Medicare cost reports. If anything, even just how accounting is so crucial to submitting these reports. If you have any additional desires to see more about cost reports, please visit Medicare.gov. Thank you and wishing you a wonderful semester.